Through the magic of the internet, we travel all the way to Hawaii to say aloha to Elite Series angler and reigning Bass Nation national champion Matty Wong this week on
I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmaster. Welcome to Mercer.
Welcome one, welcome all to the Awkwardly Honest Fishing Podcast that goes by my last name, which is Mercer. So welcome to Mercer, which means it is Wednesday. Happy hump day. You are halfway through the week. And in Canada, Friday is Canada Day. And the U.S., Monday is July 4th, I believe. So big weekend, no matter what side of the border you were on. A big show. And speaking of big, you guys, I went over the top last week talking about how awesome it was to pass 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Well, at last check, the kettle still keeps boiling. 107,000 subscribers so far. Unbelievable. To grow 7,000 since last week's show is wild. This keeps growing, and thank you all. But you don't come here to hear me rattle on about our subscribers. You come here to get inside the heads of some of all of our really cool guests. I think every single guest we've ever had has been really cool, but this one's a little cooler. This one is going to be from Hawaii. That's right. No, we don't have the budget to fly there or anything like that. It's just through the magic of the internet, we're going to Hawaii. But I'm excited about this week's show just because Matty Wong is somebody that before I even met him, I found myself attracted to his energy, to his positivity, to, what he puts out there. And, man, he's made an impact already in the Elite Series. It's very early in his career, but Matty Wong is a special dude. And I don't know how his career works out. Nobody does, himself included. But, man, I'm going to tell you, he's going to make an impact on this industry. He is going to make an impact on this industry one way or another, and I honestly believe he already has. So let's get inside his head and let's travel all the way to Hawaii right now and join him right now, the one and only Matty Wong, your Bass Nation national champion from Hawaii. Matty Wong, I have been waiting for this. We talked about doing this together, but we didn't want to just do any boring old podcast, right? We waited till you were back in Hawaii.
Ikomomai, welcome to my home. I'm stoked to be on and chatting with you all the way out in the middle of the Pacific. It's been really nice to be home, and it's cool that we finally get to do this, man. I'm stoked.
So what has being home been like for you? Do people in Hawaii know what you're up to? Or is that part of the message you gotta spread as you're there?
With the days of social media, right, we have the ability to kind of keep track of what everyone's up to and what everyone's doing. It's pretty incredible. So it's neat to come home, and a lot of my friends are like, "Oh, bro, how's the bass fishing?" And like they don't really understand too much about it because we really don't have. There's not a big bass scene here, which you guys can all assume, but it's neat because I feel like I'm able to give them a little bit more insight on what life is like on the road and what life is like on tour. So it's been really cool. And Hawaiian Airlines just did a feature on me in their in-flight magazine, and it's pretty neat, man. So it's some people, even if they're like just visiting here, they're like, "Hey, aren't you Matty Wong, the bass guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." So it's been fun.
It's pretty incredible to think how quick a lot of this has happened for you. It's not like you've been at this for decades.
Yeah, no, I'm super grateful and super humbled by it all. I never thought, as a kid growing up here, that I would ever have the opportunity to do something like this. And the fact that, it's my reality now. Is just, it still gives me goosebumps, man. And yeah, it's such a cool adventure. You know, it's every turn in life, there's something that's unexpected, and oftentimes when we try and plan it out, life has its own plans. And I'm just trying to be as present as I can in the front row of this roller coaster, and just keep my hands up and enjoy it, you know?
I mean, I guess I realized I saw the passion in you very, very early on. You know, even before we even met each other, you're a very passionate person. But I guess one of the moments for me where I was like, wow, this dude, I think is here for a lot, was when I met your parents at the Classic. And I saw how excited they were for you. You know what I mean? And you can't fake that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it. Yeah. How the hell did you get here though? Like, do you ever stop? Because I mean, I'll be honest, as a Canadian dude that MCs a highly Southern sport, I have moments where I'm like, well, why did they hire some dude from Port Perry? Like, how did this all happen? Yeah. So I got to ask you, you have to have those moments too.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I think, you know, like, you know, oftentimes I'll find myself, you know, whether I'm driving through the never-ending state of Texas, just in silence and just having thought, you know, I'm like, I feel like looking in the rearview mirror. I'm like, yeah, the boat's still there. The tundra's here. I'm like, what? It's definitely, yeah, it's wild. You know, I never thought, well, one, it was just a cool like check mark for me to even make it to the nationals for the Bass Nation, you know, and for me, my goals, I always try and set goals for myself. And when I was fishing the nation in California, my whole thing was, okay, if I could make the state team, I'll be stoked. And it would be wild if I can even fish the regionals, because I mean, that would just be cool in itself. And by the fate of the universe, if I end up fishing the nationals, even if I take last place, man, that will be an experience in itself and a story. And I feel like all of our lives are stories, and everyone has their own book. And I think it just fills me with gratitude, just to know that I can represent, you know, Hawaii, being from here and having so much pride being from the islands, and also to help represent, you know, California, which kind of like grew me up in a way to become the bass fisherman that I am today. So it's, you know, it's cool. It's just like, you know, I wish I knew more about, I want to know more about your story, man, on how you came about to be an MC. But I mean, you're doing an incredible job, and I'm stoked that as soon as we got that interaction, it happened seamlessly. And I feel like the way that we interact, you know, off stage and on stage, it's just seamless and so smooth and effortless. So it's awesome, man. You're awesome, Dave.
Well, that's not why I had you on here, but thanks. We can get into my story at some point, but basically, dude, I'm no different than, I think I'm a little different than you though, because you did other things. You know what I mean? You, and we'll get into that. But for me, dude, fishing is all that it's ever been. Since I run into people that I was in grade school with, and they're like, you literally did exactly what you said you were going to do. And I didn't know that I was going to be an MC. I just knew I was going to fish for a living. I knew that I had to be part of that. But you actually chased other things. I mean, I feel like you've got layers. You have onions. You're like an onion. You have a bunch of layers. Like I didn't even know about the saxophone thing until the other day when I saw you playing the sax on your Insta story. So, I mean, musician, actor, professional angler, like anything else I don't know about?
I like to play pool. I'm okay at golf. I like ping pong, but Carl Jochimson probably says that I suck. But like Carl's on a whole different level. I'm obsessed with with birds. It's kind of weird. Like I grew up with parrots, chickens. I have a couple chickens running around. I mean, I feel like life has just so many. I think that was me, like as a younger kid, like as a young man in my 20s, I had so many different passions. And I feel like in life, you know, the more experience and the more knowledge that you have, the more of the wealth that you have, and not necessarily in a monetary value, but in like a fulfillment, in a spiritual way, in a gratitude way. There's just so many different, like you said, like an onion, right? You have all these different layers of gratitude that you could give and appreciation. And like, I love hockey. Oh, that's another one I forgot to mention. Like I played roller hockey growing up in Hawaii. Like when the Mighty Ducks came out in the 90s, I was like, I want to play that sport. And I played and I traveled with it. It was in year 2000 or something like that. I was on like the Pee Wee All-Star team for Hawaii. We traveled to Chicago for the Nationals. We got our butts absolutely kicked, but like, I absolutely love hockey. And when I moved to California, I actually played ice for like 4 or 5 years. And so I told myself, you know, if I could be a jack of all trades, you know, what they say, a jack of all trades is master of none, but a jack of all trades is better than none, right? And so I feel like I've lived my life, or I feel like I'm living my life, and I've seen so many times with friends before me that, you know, they fall into a certain career or career path, and sometimes because of cultural reasons, it's not that you could have like chosen that, you know, where it's like, hey, you're going to be a doctor, and like that's just like the route that you're just brought up to do. And so I owe a lot of you know, a lot of thanks to my parents to kind of give me the freedom to kind of just be me and chase these different passions and these different dreams. But I think the thing that I learned from my parents is work ethic. And as long as I worked hard at everything that I was passionate in and loved to do, then it would pay off in dividends. And I see that, you know, now. And when I worked in Los Angeles, you know, when I was working as an actor, I had a lot of fun doing that. And then when I worked as like a lighting director, you know, I slaved at it, and I was really a slave to the craft and put a lot of time and effort to it. And the whole time, all of these things were going along in my life. And this whole time that hockey was there, free diving was there, fishing, or, you know, acting or saxophone, fishing was always the baseline. Fishing was always the thing that kept me like grounded. Fishing was the thing that kept me like, okay, all right. Whether or not it was catch and release on Lake Wilson, fishing for peacock bass, or fishing for smallmouth in the streams here, or going out on my little Boston whaler and catching, you know, mahi and small tuna and stuff for friends and family. You know, that was something like I felt like I was able to give. And whenever I'm able to give, it's just a good feeling. I mean, I think everyone can maybe agree with that. It's like giving is a good feeling. And to be able to give the gift of like food, for instance, like I love to be able to gift fish to friends. You know, I have neighbors here. Whenever I like get a great catch and I have a good fish that I can flay up and hook everyone up with, I try my best to do that, because I know the joy that people get from receiving fish and that kind of thing. And for some of the people that just can't go out and do it for themselves anymore. But yeah, it was, I struggled to have divine focus. And I think that that's something that, you know, as a young man, it troubled me, because I'm like, man, I have all these different passions. I don't know which route do I want to spend more time in? Like, what would be the most lucrative? You know, what would be the most fulfilling? There's all these things that you want to check off, but you want to make sure that, you know, like, is this the right time and investment? And then obviously, naturally, you start comparing yourself to other people, other things, other careers and whatnot. And I've been super lucky to have a group of friends that, you know, as we progress through life, we all are leveling up. and we all constantly remind ourselves like, hey, what are you doing to be better today? What are you doing? Like, and whenever one of us levels up in a way, we celebrate them. And I think it's important to have that friend group. And I think everyone does have a certain level of that. But it's just, it's wild. Life is a crazy, crazy thing. And I'm stoked to be fishing for a living. And just like you said, just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I guess my dream when I was a little kid, there was a local show. I mean, along with the master that you recently got to work with and the guy that I got to meet for the very first time, Bill Dance. I used to watch his show every weekend, with my dad. And I thought that he had the bloopers going, he had the informative side going, and I enjoyed watching that so much. And there was a couple other shows on in Hawaii, locally. Like there's this one, Fishing Tales with Mike Sakamoto, and he inspired me. I seen how he helped inspire young kids. I seen how he was super informative, and then he was also entertaining. And so I think my mom remembers when I was like a little kid saying like, yeah, I want to have my own fishing show eventually. And I was like probably like 8 years old or something like that. So I mean, I feel like I'm still kind of growing towards that direction. I think that's still kind of a lifelong dream of mine because, as much as the media likes to portray the limelight of the tour life, it is a hustle.
Yeah.
And it is definitely a grind. I've never fished 60 hours a week leading up to this. It's a lot of time away from home, away from family and friends. And then on top of that, the competition is extremely grueling. And so I'm taking it as this time to grow as an experience, and to meet people. And I think it's served all those things so far. And I'm excited to just, keep going, obviously, as long as it's fun. And I think that's the main thing, because as soon as it becomes a job, it's no longer fun. And when it's no longer fun and enjoyable, why are you doing it? And so I think that's something that maybe everyone can kind of take away is enjoy what you're doing. And I understand everyone has bills and things like that, and in the rigors of life. But there's still ways to make it enjoyable for yourself. And so I want to make sure that being on tour is still enjoyable.
Yeah. Do you think that's one area that parents like, and obviously you have great parents, but do you think that's one area where kind of people screw up? Like everybody tells him, my parents were the same. I mean, they were dreamers. They left Ireland, to move to Canada for nothing other than us kids. You know what I mean? To give us a better opportunity. And they were dreamers, but they always were like, follow your dreams, but you got to be responsible and you got to get a good job and everything. And I remember my mom would bring home like newspaper clippings, because that was before people.com, before you get a job through that.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, this gas station
the classifieds.
Yeah, she wouldn't care. Like she's like, you're going to make $13,000 a year, but to her, she's a mother. And as a father myself, I get it. You just want your kid to be safe. But I've always kind of been under the belief that tell your kid to do something that makes them really happy. Because if they do, they're going to become really good at it because they're happy. Do you think that's kind of one of the mistakes? And do you think that's maybe why you started chasing things like a lighting director and things like that? Because as you age, you do start to feel like, well, I need to make as much as I possibly can. And
security.
Yeah,
it's the comfort, the security, and the blanket of comfort, and also, what was the other term in Hollywood? Golden handcuffs. We like to call it
golden handcuffs.
The golden handcuffs, because the money's so good, you're locked in, and that's your You're exactly right, man. That was totally the case for me working in Los Angeles, because I was working as as an actor, a starving musician, just trying to break, like, if I can make rent and like just enough. I wasn't really going out to eat, anything like that. I was literally trying to save everything just so I can just take care of my basic bills. And then when I started working as a lighting director and as a photographer, I'm like, oh, I mean, I enjoy photography and like light's cool. Like I enjoy like the concept of light and being able to shape it and mold it. I'm like, all right, this is cool. I'm like, wait, what's the paycheck involved with it? I'm like, oh, okay, that's really great. And then it just got to the point where I'm like, this is comfortable. Like I can go out and eat whenever I want. I can take a week or two off whenever I want. I run my own business. I choose my clients that I want to work with. I get to work with celebrities and actors and musicians that I've always looked up to. Like, this is a cool space. And in that complacency, I was also spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
Being frivolous,
living where you were living too.
A lot of,
I mean, that's one of the most expensive states in the world to live in too.
Yeah, no, California, especially in Los Angeles, it was brutal, and before pandemic, obviously it was expensive, but then during it, it just became more and more apparent to me that, you're not happy in your day to day. And that's really important. And I never understood what like depression was. And because it was something I'm a happy person.
Yeah.
Like I never struggled with it or anything like that. But I started to feel this kind of like this cloud of gloom. And I'm like, man, I'm usually a more positive person. Like, I don't know why this is just like, I'm dragging my feet to get going every day. I'm begrudgingly going to work, showing up on set. And I'm like, man, like, I can't wait to go and practice up on the Delta and sleep in the back of my 4Runner for that 3-day Bass Nation tournament, and I just started thinking about all the times that I wanted to be out on the water. And then I was watching like local guys like Todd Klein, and Ken Ma, and like a lot of guys from out west, my buddy Christian Ostrander, you have, and I can go on for millions of days for all the names that all these guys that inspired me. But I was seeing that they were making a living fishing tournaments, and it was interesting to me because I'm like, all right, okay, there's a route there. I can see how I can like that. That's something. But I also realized that in a space that you need to win the right ones.
Yeah.
And there's like a bit of, as much as it comes down to skill and tactic, there's lady luck also has to be on your side to a certain extent. And, I remember thinking to myself when I was putting in my strokes on the Delta, learning how to punch, learning how to flip, learning how to frog. I was like, man, I wonder if all this time on the Delta will pay off to something. Like I remember like actually having that thought in my head, like, because I had my job as a lighting director, and I would take off a week and I would shoot up to the Delta, and I would spend a whole week on the Delta, sunrise to sunset. And I wasn't fishing tournaments at the time. I wasn't doing any, I had, all the old electronics that I had, and I was going off my iPhone for my topo map to try and see like, okay, I'm going to fish this stretch and I'm going to try and break it down during this tide swing. And then when it swings out, I'm going to try and figure it out doing this. Like I'm going to do these kind of techniques and whatnot. And I'm very, very distinctively remember, man, like, I don't know what this is all for, but I'm having fun doing it. And like, I'm not getting paid right now, but hey, like, I hope this pays off somewhere. And it's just funny on how life goes, and how it works out. And when I made the regionals and I got one step closer to the nationals, I was like, you get those like weird feelings. Like you're like, man, like how crazy would that be? And you don't want to entertain it too much because, checking expectation is always important, but you want to make sure that you're like, because you don't want to get let down. And in Hollywood, you get let down all the time. Like as an actor, as a musician, like I can't tell you how many gigs that and I'm sure you've experienced the exact same thing where you get like built up and you're stoked because it's like a great payday and it's a great client, it's a great show, it's a great movie. And then like literally on the last audition or the last call, they're like, well, we didn't like your hair color, so we're gonna have to go another way. We really appreciate your time, So it's like the feeling of letdown and disappointment is always there. And so, as I was inching closer, and then when I led day one of the regionals, and I was like, man, if I just catch a couple more fish, I think I'll be able to compete in the nationals. And then when that happened on the second day, I was pretty I was like, okay, well, that's one more step. And then I looked at the top of the mountain, the figurative mountain of the dream, right? And I'm like, wow, well, it's still alive. I wonder what can happen, and just try to stay like, oh, okay. Again, being in the moment and not trying to overtly get excited about what could be, and that's when, all right, let me just keep hustling in the photo world. And that's when, COVID really started to set in, and it started to, it just, everyone went through it. And the taxing rigors of having to do production in the time of COVID.
Yeah.
With I've probably taken close to 100 COVID tests, and having to do, just all these different protocols for production in Hollywood, and it was really starting to wear on me. Not only that, but actually catching COVID a few times. But I'm like, man, all right, well, I think I need to get up to Ventura. And that's when I decided to make the move up there. And I had a couple of friends, and one of my good friends from Hawaii actually moved up to Ventura. And it was like I feel like life will throw you these like signals or these little clues once in a while, that just like these inklings that you get that are like, okay, this is the right direction. My buddy's like, hey, you should check out these couple spots that I found online in Ventura. And I start going through a couple of them, and I see this one, and I can tell that the photos online were just horrible lighting, but the space itself was great. And so I'm like, okay, this is great, because everyone's going to look past this thing, because it's like, obviously the photos are trash. Sorry, holding for chicken. Hey guys,
good.
Come on. I'm trying to do a podcast here. Come on. Can you go lay some eggs somewhere, please? But like it turned out, where I went and I looked at this one spot, and my buddy, he told me, he's like, hey, are you checking out that's like one of those spots? I'm like, yeah, this place on Meta Street. He's like, dude, we just signed a lease on Meta. And so it turned out that one of my best friends from Hawaii signed a lease on the same route, on the same road that I was looking at, and I ended up getting that place. And that just gave me the feeling of gloom, of like that LA like gloom of everything in COVID and just the work that I was doing, and I wasn't feeling fulfilled.
Yeah.
And finally getting to Ventura, like I felt like this like fresh breath of air, where it brought me back into a sense of like having community again. It brought me back in a sense of like, okay, I have like a little bit more purpose here. Because as a lighting director, I was helping other people achieve their dreams, if that makes sense. I would have photographers come to me, and they're like, hey, I don't know how to do this, but I landed this gig. Like, do you know how to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I got you. And it's funny, because a lot of people have no clue. Like behind the scenes, they look at this image and they know they heard that this guy shot it, and they're like, oh my God, he's an amazing photographer, or she's amazing a photographer. And they don't realize that it takes the whole crew to do everything. And most of the time, it's not even them doing all the technical work. And so it was starting to drain on me, because I'm like, I knew that they were making tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars, but in comparison. And I was like, all right, yeah, good shooting techs. And I'm like, if it wasn't for me, this wouldn't be here, and you wouldn't have had that campaign, But it was starting to beat me up, because I was like, I'm not really following my dream here. I'm just being complacent because of these golden handcuffs. It's like,
and the only reward is money, right? Like if you chase money, like not to drop a Bob Marley quote, but I will. Numbers never end. And if you chase a number, chase money, you will never find satisfaction. And it's true. Like if you think about most of the truly And I think what happens, dude, here's my take on it, is people get into a job, and there's a lot of people listening to this, and they do that job, and they're told, hey man, if you work real hard, you'll get this next level of job. And then there's one after that. And they just keep working, and they're like, when I become assistant director, I'll be happy. And they get there and they're like, yeah. I'm not. Oh, well, when I become VP, I'll be happy. And they get there and they're not, because they've never been chasing what brought them happiness in the first place. So I think what you went through is natural. I just think most people don't verbalize it or even have the balls to go and try make a change.
Yeah. Well, it's terrifying, right?
Yeah.
When you leave that like blanket of comfort, when you leave when you take the key for the golden handcuffs to go, it's like, okay. And then you're floating in this universe of like, all right, okay, I think this is the direction. And it's nuts on how life will then kind of push you back in a way. And as long as you stay on the horse and you keep your blinders on and what's important to you and where you find happiness, and it will find ways to work itself out. And I'm super grateful for, what I did in Los Angeles. Like I experienced extreme hardship. I experienced the pandemic there, and I experienced having to learn how to collaborate and work with people, and also running my own business and all the struggles behind that. But it really made me super appreciative of when I brought that bag up at the Nationals and put it on the scales, and when Kobe Carden told me that he didn't have the weight, I wanted to hear it out of Jon Stewart's mouth. And when he said it, it was like that. It was a moment that, like, it's an unforgettable moment, man. It just like flushed my whole body, and it was surreal, and I was speechless. And I knew that with that day, my life has changed. Yeah. And I remember he asked me on stage, like, if I was going to fish the tour, and in my head, I was like, there's no other option.
Yeah.
There's no other option. There's no way, that I would miss out on that. And that's when I knew that my work had started. I'm like, okay, now it's actually time to grind. And I think with my experience in photography, with my experience in the marketing space, and being an entertainer and a performer, I knew, like, okay, I think this is, now I know my business sense behind me. I'm like, okay, now it's time to fund this thing, because there's no way I'm going to go into and max out 5 credit cards just to make this dream a reality, And I think that's a whole nother conversation, but like, the costs behind trying to working on, doing the tour, and being a professional fisherman. But I have incredible partners and sponsors that I work with, and I'm super, super grateful for all of them, because they gave me a chance. They took a gamble on some kid from Hawaii to chase his dream, and hopefully I'm doing them all justice and making them proud, slowly and surely. Hopefully I keep climbing the ranks, but it's pretty nuts, man. I just, like, I never thought that like a pair of sunglasses that I would have like bought before, or like Yeti stuff that I would have, I mean, these are all things, but it's funny when you get to that level and the things start coming, they're of a lesson. They're still important, but it's like there's like a paradigm shift in a way. It's like, okay, this is my job now. These are my tools. Now I need to go and like dig that garden, because we need to like make that thing flourish. Yeah. So it's,
What did because I've only spent weeks there. I have never lived there, but what does living in LA and interacting with celebrities on a daily basis, and how did that change your way of thinking, good, bad, or indifferent?
You definitely have to watch every P and Q that comes out of your mouth. Certain people want to be addressed in a certain way, like LL Cool J, like his name's Todd. He wants to be called Todd. Like, it's like
that's so weird to call LL Cool J Todd. Hey Todd, here's your coffee.
Yeah, and I'm like, it was the funniest thing, and I got to work with him for 2 years on a show called Lip Sync Battle on Spike TV, and it was like him and Chrissy Teigen and John Legend, and so like Todd and I became like, you know, it was like this on set, you know, friendship where I would give him music, you know, that because being a saxophonist, I'm like, dude, Carl Denson, Tiny Universe. He's like, whoa, that's awesome. Here, check this out. And he would like throw me some old school hip hop, and we would like have this like fun little trade. And then you see how a lot of these people, and it's not for everyone. Obviously, there's certain celebrities that they're very present and they know their position and they're grateful for it and they understand their platform and then they use it for good. And then you have other people that like the Kardashians, that like their head is so far up and gone that their universe that they live in is only a reality that it's a bubble. Like Paris Hilton is another one. Like she lives and operates in this little universe that is only hers, and everyone else is trying to peer in at it. And what she's trying to like, or what they're trying to put like project. And I'm not going to use specifics so I don't get in trouble because technically, of course, I'm still in the industry, kind of. But like, it's like people will look in and be like, "Oh my gosh, like that's so cool and glamorous," but at the end of the day, like a lot of these people struggle with like pretty severe depression.
Yeah.
And
well, think about it. If all your
you know?
value is that, like, I mean, if your value is just beauty, and beauty is such a fleeting thing for anyone, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And just different. I think that's why I asked that question, not looking just for specifics, but anytime I've spent there, I'm just like, how could you like, it's not real. Like nothing is real. Everything's fake. You're judged on what you wear. You're judged on what you arrived in. You're judged on, you know, what your last hit was. And if it wasn't a hit, you're also judged on that too. It's just such a weird kind of plastic world.
It's strange because I learned living there. I met some incredible friends that I have lifelong friends now in Los Angeles and in California. I said, Todd. Where if I were to see him, he'd be like, Matty? Like, you know, it'd be like so confusing for him. It'd be, but like it, you know, and like I did surf coaching for a little bit with some celebrities, and like David Beckham and his family was like my clients, and so David and like Victoria they're also, you know, I don't like to call them friends because I'm not like having tea with Victoria, but like, you know, they know who I am, I know who they are, and I know their kids, and watch them kind of grow up. And it's, I don't know, it's interesting because, you know, I was a soldier in this reality of trying to, you know, help the machine push forward.
Yeah.
And and if I'm figuratively using that, the machine is Hollywood and entertainment, and your main stars, like are the generals and admirals of this play, right? And like they're the ones that are leading this charge of like what they want to be doing, along with, it's more so like the studio conglomerates and whatnot, but it's you feel like a pawn in a way, but a well-paid pawn once you get to a certain point. And it does feel really, really good to step out and then to look back and to be like, wow, I survived the gauntlet, you know, and made a lot of really cool memories for myself. Like to look back and like, it's crazy. Walk into a house party and like there's a Shark Tank like literally like a literal tank full of sharks. You're like, how?
Matt Robertson
Like, we're up in
has those in
Mulholland,
his
like-
house too. Just so you know, Matt Robertson hasn't. No, he doesn't really. Imagine if you walked into Matt Robertson's trailer and there's a giant shark tank. I mean, I don't know whether I'd be impressed, but I might just.
He spends all of his money into feeding his shark. It's like his trailer and his shark tank, and you walk in, it's like a roll of Twinkies and like his like shark tank.
I mean, I bet you he could sell it. He could sell it. Yeah, no, it's a weird world. I could imagine walking in to see some of the stuff that you saw over the years.
Yeah, no, it's cool, and I wouldn't give it up for anything, because I got an inside scoop of of their lives and a lot of like them personally, and I still have a lot of friends that are in the industry, and it's just I respect what they do. It is a grind. It is a really hard grind, and you have to have a type of mental fortitude to be able to be in that as well, because a lot of people go in and they come in with their eyes wide open, all starry-eyed. They're like, oh, I'm gonna go here and crush it. And like, that was me. I was like, I want to be like this actor, like saxophonist guy, and then you just get smashed to the ground because everyone around you is so talented, and you're just another drop in the bucket at that point. And it's just how you recreate yourself to pull yourself out of that bucket and to like push yourself and reinvent yourself in a way that you're like, okay, that just made me stronger, versus a lot of people will flee. Like there's a lot of people from Hawaii that I know that have moved out to LA to try and experience it and to live it, and they get swallowed up, and then they're like, oh, screw this, I'm out of here. And it's not for everyone. And a lot of my friends back home were like, bro, I can't believe you lasted for that long. And I'm like, it wasn't easy. It wasn't a walk in the park. I struggled a lot, and I would have to come home a lot too to get regrounded, because you get lost in certain things. You start like buying more things, and things become more materialistic. You're just like, oh yeah, that new surfboard, or like that new, like whatever, and you kind of get caught up, and because it's what you're surrounded by. And then you come back to a place like here, like back to Oahu, and they're like, bro, like what? Like they don't even like understand. Like it doesn't even like there's no comprehension of it. And that's what I needed was, my friends to always check me. Which, again, I'm just super grateful to have amazing friends, and we've all been able to kind of keep each other in check.
All right, let's fast forward to the Bassmaster Elite Series. You qualify, win Bass Nation, dreams come true. You qualify for the Bassmaster Elite Series. And I feel like what you were just explaining about LA is exactly what the Elite Series is to a lot of guys. Like if you look at the Johnstons, I mean, they were a big deal in Canada. They still to this day win most of the tournaments.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden they came to the Elite Series and they're like, whoa, there's a bunch of big deals here. Seth Feider, you hear week after week, everybody I have on this podcast, Pat Schlopper last week. But if you read through the comments, there's people who are like, I used to fish against him. He would cave our skull in week after week. And that's what the Elite Series is full of. And then you get there and you're like, wait a second, there is more people like me. And this has just gotten a lot harder. So it's kind of like LA. I guess that's about the only comparison you could make between the Elite Series and LA.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because like you have like the Jason Christie's and the Hackneys and the Fighter, and you have like Brennan and Carl and all these like for me it's like celebrities, in the fishing world, guys that have immense popularity and an immense amount of skill. And obviously it's super daunting to go up against all those guys. But I also, for me, now I'm just like, all right, I'm here. And, I'm trying.
Yeah.
And I'm trying my best. And that's all I can do. And whether I succeed or I fail, at least I tried. And it's so gratifying when I do beat them. It's just like it tastes so good. And like when Chickamauga, when I like brought in that bag, and you get recognized by certain people like after you do something cool, because otherwise they don't even talk to you, you know. And not to say that they're not friendly, but they're just like, yeah, whatever, rookie, you know. But until you actually are able to turn their heads, I don't know. It's an interesting world, you know. I'm not like, there's certain people that hold like a certain persona about them, and I don't know if it's because they've been in it for so long and they feel like they're like entitled to whatever they are. Then like, and it's like, I'm like, okay, there's your similarity between LA and the Elite Series is, you know, this feeling of like entitlement, you know. But you know, at the same time, I'm like, bro, we're all here, we all qualified for this thing, and realistically it's anyone's game. And so all you can just do is just be nice. just be nice. And so I don't know. I think I don't, my time on the Elites is to, one, enjoy myself as much as I can, to be as present in this moment and on tour as I can, to document it as best as I can, and share it on my YouTube, which is Capture Fish. If you guys haven't subscribed, please subscribe to Capture Fish, turn on notifications.
Yeah, do that. And we'll also put a link down in the description. So we'll give a direct link. Make sure you follow him. He's freaking spending time in Hawaii, you know, talking to a computer for you people. That deserves a follow, okay? There's a lot of other crap he could be doing. Carry on.
Yeah, there's waves right waves right now, and actually after this I'm going to go straight to the beach and go surf. But it's you know, it's an opportunity that not many people get, and I know there's thousands of people that would love to be in my same position, and I'm here as a steward of Aloha to represent where I'm from. I'm here as to represent the West Coast and all my friends that have dreamed of doing this, that have done it way longer than I have. And I'm just so grateful and lucky that it all happened for me so quickly. And so there's a lot, you know, and then at the end of the day for myself, you know, for me to look back and to say like, dang, dude, that was a pretty fun part of life, you know? And so, yeah, it's a roller coaster, man. And just like you said, like, it's either like my lights are like, I'm knocking them out, my lights are on, or like there's no lights on at all. It's a trip, you know.
It's who do you room with? I mean, do you room with several different people, or you kind of a guy who sleeps around? I don't know if you have. Maybe that was the wrong way to phrase it, but I know you've roomed with several different people. Is that because you don't get along, or you just? What is who are you rooming with?
No, you know, I'm grateful that a lot of people have extended their welcome to me for rooms. You know, like when I first started in Florida, where Ronnie Moore, you know, reached out and his parents took me in. That was really neat. And a lot of other people, just maybe not even on tour in general, but people in the fishing world that have seen me come up through the ranks and be like, bro, I want to help you, you know? And so I want to find a close knit like group. I feel like Ike and Ellie and I have been getting closer, and
that is so grateful. Weird. You literally, it's like the scene from Happy Gilmore. He's Happy Gilmore, obviously, and you are the center of Quam. The ball's natural home is the hole. Send it home, Happy. Tap taparoo. What do you guys talk about at night? Like you and Ike and Ellie, it seems so like I could just imagine him kicking through the door, spazzing about something, and then you're like, find your happy place, Ike.
Like here, Ike, here's some Modelo. Let's sit down. Let's talk about it. He's an incredible guy, you know, and when you get to know him on a personal level, he isn't what a lot of people see him like on the screen. He's actually really calm, really relaxed, really chill. Yeah, he has his times. He definitely does. But that's what makes Ike, you know,
Yeah.
that's what makes him unique and special. And so for me, I try not to judge someone by, you know, how they may be perceived, but how they treat me and how
Always.
they treat others. And as long as they've done nothing wrong to me personally and nothing wrong to my friends, then we don't have any issues. And all I've seen Ike do is been supportive and give back to the community. Other guys like Greg DePalma, I met through Ike. Greg is like, he's been super, super awesome. John Kelly, another rookie on tour. We've been developing a friendship, and you know, he's been super awesome. You know, like this the past event on Pickwick, we roomed together, and I've roomed with Ike a couple of times. I roomed, well, that was my first time rooming with John, and then I've roomed with on Chickamauga, I roomed with Carl let me stay in his garage, and Gussie slept in the camper out back. So super grateful to Carl for opening his home to me. And you know, it's neat on where you see it's like it's in like we're like comparing the elites to like Hollywood and LA in a way, because it's like it's cliquey. It's like high school, you know, and it's like, you know, like Fighter and like the Johnson brothers and like Robinson, you know, and then you have like the Pipkins with you know, with De Palma and Ike, and then you have, you know, Christie, who's doing his own thing, and then you have, you know, but everyone kind of, it's interesting how you have like, there's certain people that talk and work as groups, you know, and how like Carl and Gussie work together. You know, I'm trying to find the happy medium, because to be able to take on a lot of these fisheries, it's such an overwhelming task. And you know, for a lot of people that grew up on the fishery, even for them, they're like, yeah, I have all this history here, but like I still struggle, you know. And imagine being me, I've literally never been on the water there, and I've, you know, most of the time, first time ever in the state. It's nice to be able to bounce some ideas, and even like, so that's why, like for instance, like for Mike, it's been so awesome to be able to bounce certain things off of him, because he'd be like, yeah, historically, you know, a check, you know, one of the top 10 is going to come out of here, and here, and then like some of the guys are going to go and do this, some of the guys are doing this, you know, like and so it's kind of, it's cool, because then I get the history lesson about the fishery, and then I can go in with my glasses on and to be able to look at it in a different way, and to try and figure out and to code it in the way that I feel comfortable doing it. You know, like Fork, for instance, you know, like everyone, like going into it, everyone's like, dude, it's going to be an offshore deal. And it basically turned into kind of that, but then a lot of guys, you know, cash checks, fishing shallow. It was neat, because, you know, some people were like, dude, this thing's going to be one offshore. And I tried to do it. I tried to figure it out. I'm still trying to get better at my electronics. So, and I feel like Pickwick, I learned a lot about my electronics there, but on Fork, I was still kind of like trying to really dial in certain things, but I didn't want to rely on it. Again, I come from a place where I don't rely on my electronics. I don't put a lot of weight on that, because I feel like if you do, sometimes you can crumble. And I wanted to fish instinctually, and like Chickamauga, I just like, you know, I wanted to go out and just fish and do my thing. And so I just like literally glued a top water in my hand and just had so much fun on Fork, and ended up, you know, with that 27-pound bag. And so that was really neat. And, you know, when you have other people that you can bounce ideas off with, it kind of gives you, it's not like, I mean, I think some of the guys, some of the teams, they obviously share spots, and they'll share waypoints with each other, and like for community holes and whatnot. But then like just on more general broad strokes, I feel like it's great because then I could bounce off and confirm certain things, maybe certain theories that I have in my head of what's going on, and to be able to like sometimes like pick up like, oh, dude, I pegged the quarter ounce and like I was throwing it with this, and I'm like, oh, okay, well I was getting bites doing this, like, oh, all right, and then like from there you can kind of like work together and to have something that works for both of you. And it's especially fun when you're staying in a house and you want to make sure everyone makes a cut.
Yeah.
And so like there becomes that camaraderie that's really enjoyable. Like it was awesome when, we all like on Chickamauga where Carl made top 10 and like Gussie killed it. And like I made a check and missed top 10 by ounces. It was that was really neat to be like, hey dude, we hit the goal as a house. But yeah, I'm still feeling my way through, kind of feeling out some people and like who are more accepting to an island boy like myself and other people that are a little bit more nose up to me, that I don't have the time for. I don't care, and yeah, I get that. Not everyone is like super like, oh, welcome, like there's other people like, wow, like, what are you doing here? I get that vibe from a few guys on tour, and I'm not going to name names, but I'm like, well, that's completely unnecessary, but I'm also not going to let you get to me. I'm actually going to laugh at it because I know if I'm laughing at it, it's just going to bug them even more. So like, I'm like, it's just, life's too short to get caught up in BS and drama. And I just want to surround myself with positive people that appreciate who I am, and appreciate the sport and appreciate friendship, because I mean, at the end of the day, like, what's life without friends? And I think the guy who ends his life, with a full bank account, but no one around him is broke. Yeah. Versus someone who ends their life and is surrounded by friends, and people that love them and care about them, because of the experiences that they shared and the things that they've gone through. You live a life of riches. So I don't know, just trying to find a balance.
I think it's totally true.
It's all about finding a balance. Yeah.
I think it's totally true. I mean, I've always kind of said that the worst thing, and I'll change the occupation because I remember being at somebody's funeral years ago, and I remember someone saying, man, he was a great marketer. He was a great marketer. I remember thinking that is the worst thing I've ever heard somebody say. Not that being a great marketer, but like, the person's dead.
Yeah.
If you shouldn't even, what I mean? Like, even if you're a professional angler, there's so many things that are mentioned. Like, I mean, we lost one of the most beloved anglers, professional anglers ever, in this last year, Aaron Martins.
Yeah.
They talk about so many things before they ever say what he did with the rod, because
mention fishing,
it's just your job. And you want to be able to affect people positively. And dude, I think you do that. Like, I think you really, I mean, I've used you as an example a bunch of times. I'm like, you've made an impact in a very short period of time. And it's because of that positive outlook. You know what I mean? It's real easy when you have a tough one to hang your head. But man, every time you have a microphone, every time there's a live camera, it's similar to, and I've used it, I've told you this before, Carl. I mean, I always said that about Carl long before Carl won. Anytime Carl had any opportunity, to talk on a microphone, to have a live camera, whether it went good or bad, you fell in love with him. You know what I mean? The viewers watched and they were impacted, and it built. And I think you're very much that way. I mean, and I think our sport needs it. I think it's awesome that a kid in Hawaii right now can look at somebody and be like, there's a route. There's a kid in Canada that can look at several people. You know what I mean? And this wasn't things that there's just all the kids in Australia that can look at Carl, that these were not things that happened in the past. And I think the international growth of the sport is pretty freaking badass.
No, I agree, man. I can't agree anymore. I think that it's so important to grow our sport in a way where people feel safe and can feel like they have a route in, and they feel like they're accepted into the community. And I think, like whatever background you come from, whatever country you're from, if you have a passion in fishing, that to me, it's like music. Music is like an international language, right? It's the universal language, I should say, is music. And for me, fishing is that. Yeah. I have friends in Spain, Portugal, in Japan, in Korea, because of fishing. And I think that that's so cool. And it's such a unique sport that it can, draw people from everywhere. And like you were saying earlier, like now there's kids in Hawaii that feel like there's a route. There's a tournament going on Pickwick right now, which is the high school national, or no, I think it's a worldwide championship or something like that going on Pickwick. And there's two boys, Talon and Cash, from the island of Kauai that are competing there right now. And that in itself makes me so happy, because my last break a couple months ago, I was able to fly over to Kauai and to be able to hang out with them and fish with them for a day, and to just like, hey boys, like there's a way to do it, man. You guys can do it. If you guys love this and you want to put in work and you're ate up by it, bro, there's a route, and I'm here to help you guys. And it made me feel fulfilled when they reached out to me. They're like, bro, we're having an issue. We can't find a boat. Like there's no places that rent bass boats. I'm like, yeah, you're not going to find bass boat rentals, but I was like, you know what? And this is when I come in because of my platform. It's like, hey, I put a message out there. I'm like, hey, there's a couple of boys from Kauai that need your help and that want the same opportunity just to be able to compete. And I had a slew of messages of people come in from the community and say, hey, they're welcome to my boat. And like, I'm here, I'm a couple hours from here. And sure enough, literally like within the day, I was able to find them a boat, and now they're fishing the first ever Hawaii kids fishing a high school bass tournament. And I feel like I was a part of that. And so that's so rewarding for me. And it's so important, because if I can help a kid feel like they can accomplish like any type of dream, like I was a dreamer. That was me. I was a little kid that had these like big, crazy, I wanted to play in the NHL. Bro, look how skinny I am. Like, you kidding? I had these crazy dreams, and now being able to kind of like narrow them down and to be able to actually live a dream of mine, like fishing professionally, to be able to inspire, like the next generation to like, look, if you work hard and you love what you do, anything's possible. And don't let anyone put any negative crap into your head that you can't, because if there's a will, there's a way. As cliche as it sounds, it really is. And if you're willing to put in the hard work and the time, you can make it happen. So,
amen. I
think that's the cool thing about.
And it's the truth though. And I think that most people don't take it because they, like you have to hate the fact of it not happening. Like it's not even a dream. It's like a nightmare of it not happening for you. That's how hard. Because I think a lot of people say, oh, I tried. The only way to stop trying is if you, like, the only way it ends if you stop trying. And as long as because you see people over and over again. So I appreciate what you bring to the sport. And the best part is I think you're just getting started, dude. I think you have an incredible future ahead of you. And I look forward to seeing how it goes. But speaking of looking forward to things, the whole idea behind this was we're going to do this podcast. You were going to be in Hawaii. And then the problem is technology did not allow us to be. You were out in the backyard there, and it was gorgeous and everything. So take us for a tour, because if we lose you, we lose you. Yeah. It's been awesome having you on here. Okay. Make sure to follow him, but take us for a tour. And dude, just in case we do lose you, you got to come back on here, because just every once in a while, just for Matty Wong's motivational moment or something.
Yeah,
because
no, dude, seriously,
I love
I'd
listening
love to.
Awesome.
No,
Awesome.
man, it was a pleasure talking with you, and hopefully I don't lose you as I show you guys my backyard.
All right.
And this is Rosie. Let's say hi to Rosie over here. Rosie's it's a fiery Rosella. I'm not sure if we're legally even allowed to have her here, but I mean it's okay because she's like the only one in existence.
Nobody watches, so don't worry.
But so this is backyard, and I got that's my 13-foot Boston whaler over there that I take a couple of miles out to sea and catch fish and hook up the neighbors and my family and whatnot. And I mean, you can't really see the ocean from here. Oh, you might actually be able to, but some palms, and if you look out, you can see the ocean off in the distance, right behind that American right there. But yeah, it's a little bit windy out. Got my folks. My mom has a green thumb, loves to garden, and then you can't really see in the valley down there is the valley that I grew up in. And when I first set up out here earlier, there was every morning it missed and it would bit off and on, and it started raining on me a little bit. I'm like, okay, it's gonna stop, and then it stopped, and then so did the Wi-Fi. So
it's stopping on us right now. It's stopping on us right now, but it's got a great frozen Matty Wong face right now. You look like hard. You're back. You are back. We'll see how that all turned out, but I appreciate the tour. I appreciate the motivation, and dude, most of all, I appreciate your heart, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for you.
Thank you, Dave. I really appreciate you having me on, man. It's always a good time talking with you and getting to work with you, and I would love to be on again and just talk story and just do what we did. So.
Deal. We will do it more and more in the future. So aloha, Matty Wong.
Aloha, Dave. Have a great day.
You too. Did I tell you it was going to be a fun one? Of course I did, and it was. And who the hell knew that LL Cool J is really Todd? These are the things you learn on this weekly show. You can find us here every Wednesday. Put a little hump back in your hump day. And speaking of having fun, happy Canada Day to all my Canadian brethren on Friday, and happy 4th of July to everybody in the States. Both sides of the border are going to be having a good weekend. Lots of fireworks, lots of fun, lots of festivities. Make sure to wear your PFD. Have a good time. And here's the cool thing. You know how you say hello in Hawaii? Aloha. You know how you say goodbye in Hawaii? Aloha.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because Bob Cobb of the Bassmaster told you to. You hear?